Right, so we are on day 4 of the 5-day course. Today, we are going to be looking about tools and techniques, okay? And these are proven strategies to help you cope with eating triggers, learn self-control techniques, and create that mindset to maintain a healthy weight moving forward into the future. Now, the first trigger we know is emotional eating, but it can be binge eating, and I'm going to interject between the two. So if you go, well, I don't emotionally eat by binge eat, that's fine. Or you go, well, I don't binge eat by emotionally eat, don't worry, it's all applicable to you, okay? Now, as you know, if you're an emotional eater, you're not alone. Well, you know you're not alone because your group's got 3,900 people in it, and that's a small group of the population. And food is that most common means of dealing with negative feelings. And like I said before, while that occasional bowl of ice cream won't cause any harm, many people take it too far and they are emotional eaters like we are. Unhealthy foods, though, can also cause that myriad of health issues when consumed in large quantities. You know how you feel after you've ate too much junk food, when you've ate too much chocolate, when you've ate too much, you know how you feel. But when you think about this as well, that's negative eating also takes a toll on your self-esteem. Feeling out of control isn't empowering. I know it's embarrassing. It's shameful. You have guilt attached to it. But you can regain that sense of control by eliminating emotional eating from your life. Now, again, sounds easy, but it's not. Because if it was easy, I'll be doing this from, as I said, my yacht in the Bahamas. It is hard work, but it is achievable. You just have to remember it's there. So let's look at some techniques to control emotional eating. Well, the first one is develop pleasures other than food. See, emotional eating is just challenging to give up because it's so pleasurable. Food can make us so much better, at least in that short term. And scientists consider like food as addicting and narcotics, especially when you consider what I told you about the food industry, who pump billions of pounds a year into creating the food that's going to hit that right receptor in the brain. That's going to make you, spark alive, and all those neural pathways and receptors are just going to light up like a Christmas tree. And also, remember, we have to eat. Okay? So abstaining from food is great, but you still have to eat. It is there everywhere. And it doesn't have the social stigma like drugs and alcohol do, or even gambling. The most effective way to give up a pleasure habit is to find a substitute. So determine a way you can soothe yourself about eating. You might listen to music, exercise, get a massage, take a bath, chat with a friend, or just do something that replaces this habit. The other thing you do is slow down. If you have to eat, which we all do, slow down. Focus on that taste, texture each bite. You'll eat less and you're going to feel better about yourself afterwards. Again, you might start actually enjoying food. Learn your trigger points. Again, this will take some time. Some of the tools you're going to have in this course, and if you join one of my programs, I equip you with these. But it might be coming home after a long, hard day. Maybe you turn to food when you're bored or lonely. What you need to do is recognize situations that bring you into the picture, and these tracker sheets I'm going to give you tonight are going to help. Develop that strategy for staying ahead of your urges. Carry healthy snacks so you're always prepared. If you know you're going to come in at 4 o'clock, but you're not eating until 6:30 because the kids aren't home or your partner's not home, then have a strategy for it. So you're not going to get too hungry. The other thing to do is learn to accept feeling uncomfortable. Okay? Rather than trying to make yourself feel better, examine your discomfort. What does it feel like? Where is it located? If you can look at dispassionately, it'll begin to wane because, again, it'll pass. And a lot of the time, the feelings are being driven by your inner critic. And keep in mind that emotion is a collection of chemicals that result in physical sensations. We then label a particular set of body sensations, anxiety, fear, loneliness, and so on. It doesn't have to be like that. You also need to be more aware. Sometimes, especially when we're feeling emotional, it's easy to plop down in front of the TV and devour a bag of crisps before you even realize what's going on. If you're going to eat, then do nothing but eat. Be mindful while you're eating and you'll eat less. In the 6-week program, we talk about creating simple rules. And quite often we'll say, a rule will be, I'll only eat at the table. I won't eat on the sofa. Because again, it's about creating the right environment for yourself. And then ask yourself, why am I eating this? Am I actually hungry? Understand your hunger and fullness levels. Understand when you're eating. Love your body. If you dislike your body, you're more likely to mistreat it by overeating. And you may look at it now and go, I hate it. But do you really? The body's amazing. It gets you round. It carries you round. But it's impossible to make changes that affect your body in a positive way if you hate it in the first place. As I say, think of the amazing things your body can do. It is unique. It's awesome. You just have to find a way to love it. Obvious, but fill up on healthy food. Okay? If your diet is healthy, it's less difficult enough to gain weight. Keep yourself comfortably full on healthy foods. If your stomach is actually full, eating is less appetizing idea, even when you're dealing with emotions. Again, there's some great ideas. You go to any sort of the nutrition guides, they'll talk about there's foods you can use to fill yourself up. Salads, vegetables. Get sufficient sleep. Again, when we get tired, our mood suffers. And eating is also responsible to a lack of energy. And guess what? Willpower, which is our fickle friend at the best of time, also suffers when we feel fatigued. So get to bed here, have an evening routine, getting yourself set up for a good night's sleep. Eating, as I said, is an effective but unhealthy way to make ourselves feel better in the moment. But by stopping the cycle of emotional eating requires finding another way to deal with discomfort. Think about this. Emotional eating is a learned behavior. Not everyone does it. Okay? You've learned it as a response to certain triggers. You can also learn to deal with your life differently. You learn to love yourself and make commitment to gain control of your behavior. So, how can we use this? How can we determine this? Well, what I'd suggest in this is if you want to master this first sort of step, the ability to interrupt self-sabotage, developing self-awareness is absolutely essential for catching yourself in the moment and recognizing what is going on for you. Okay? It's about what's going on now, not what went on yesterday. It's always about now. You only ever eat now. This is the most important part for you to remember. However, you can use the method to work out how you're feeling now about what actually happened in the past. This step brings awareness to tension that exists between what's actually happening and what you believe should be happening. If your current reality appears to be in conflict with how you see yourself, or you want to see yourself, you need to resolve the dispute between the two. In order to do this, though, some part of reality has to be rejected. For example, if you feel lonely, but you believe feeling lonely is shameful, it may be easy to avoid recognizing what's going on, and then instead choose to use food. Quite often happens. Or use other distractions to escape reality of feeling lonely. You need to recognize where you are, okay? Having that urge or sense that you're in danger of overeating, having that strong emotion that can lead you to food, not eating enough, or having thoughts about restriction, treating unhelpful beliefs as facts. They're about to be or currently in, or you're in a situation you normally associate with overeating. So here's an example. It's mid-afternoon, and you're noticing that you're having some thoughts about binging later on. These thoughts are accompanied by that feeling of inevitability, in the sense that you'll be binging later. Your critic starts going into overdrive with you. Take that moment to stop, okay, and notice what's going on, what is being said. This act alone actually interrupts your 24 patterns, right? And awakens the part of you that has the ability to observe yourself. You can start noticing the critic. And starting with the words, I recognize. Write or say what you recognize about that situation. The feelings you're experiencing, what you're believing and telling yourself about it. Pay attention to whether you're treating subjective beliefs as facts. For example, I recognize this situation is horrible. This method, though, involves getting really honest with yourself. It takes some courage to look at the parts of you that you wish you didn't exist. Maybe you're willing to do this, but without being able to differentiate between when your overeating is problematic and when it's your universal experience of sometimes eating too much, you'll continue to feel confused and stuck. There are times when we eat too much. Christmas, for example, we eat too much. Now, to heal from this, you need to recognize what is going on and name it. This interrupts your well-worn patterns and draws your consciousness, okay? And draws your attention to this very moment. It is only in that moment that there's an opportunity to do something differently. Not tomorrow, as you keep telling yourself, because tomorrow never comes. You've got to focus on the now. Now, there are 5 most common events that precede overeating. If you learn to spot these, you'll be able to deal with them. So the 5 are: you need to recognize when you are having an urge or sense that you're in danger of overeating. 2, you're having a strong enough emotion that could lead you to food. 3, you're not eating enough or having thoughts about restriction. You're going, oh, I ate too much yesterday, so I have to halve my calories today. You're treating unhelpful beliefs as facts. Or you're about to be or currently in a situation you normally associate with overeating. Netflix time, Doritos, ice cream, chocolate. So let's go back to that mid-afternoon scenario where you're having some thoughts about overeating later. In this situation, recognition may look like this. I recognize I'm sitting at my desk. I recognize I'm going to go home to an empty house. I recognize I'm feeling uncomfortable and I'm agitated. I recognize I'm having a feeling of an inevitability. I recognize I'm believing my feelings and believing I'll binge later. I recognize I'm telling myself it's inevitable I'll binge tonight. I recognize I'm believing nothing will ever change. I recognize I'm telling myself there's no point in fighting it. I recognize. Now, when finding your statements, write or say I recognize before you even know the sentence is going to end. So usually start I recognize before everyone ends. We don't often start a sentence without knowing which direction it's going in. Doing this is like asking your brain a question because you're starting a statement that you don't know the answer to. You create an expectation for your mind to go off and find an answer for it. This opens you up to discovering something new. Ideally, you will keep saying I recognize until you run out of things to recognize. The last thing you will say will be an incomplete sentence, just the words I recognize, trailing off at the end. So that is why it's important. And when you look at this thing, what am I feeling? What is important to me? Will eating get me close to what is important to me? What other things can I do that would get me closer to my goals? There's 3 things you can do, okay? You can choose to let it go, you can solve the problem, or you can change the way you think or feel about a problem. So when you think about the pre-binge state, okay, they're what we call thoughts, feelings, and circumstances. So what I'm going to do on this slide is give you an example. You see, when you see someone, you know the recognition seems to happen instantaneously, doesn't it? The context of meeting will affect your response to that person. Is their presence unexpected, or is it a planned meetup? So if you see something, you go, hey, whereas if you're about to go for lunch, you go, hi, completely different. Your emotional reaction to seeing that person depends on many things, like your relationship to that person and what happened the last time you were together. Your reaction is influenced, you see, by a myriad of factors about the past, the present, and your predictions about the immediate future. The same goes when you're trying to recognize the moments that you're most vulnerable to overeating. Your current state creates your reality, which in case is that you're going to overeat. Certain states become strongly associated with certain outcomes. You will have your own unique pre-overeating state where your thoughts, feelings, and circumstances all align to make overeating that inevitable result. And we've all been there, we've all gone through this. How you experience this state and components that create it will vary. So here are sort of some common examples of how thoughts, feelings, and circumstances combine and lead to an outcome of overeating. So the first one, component 1, I ate a load of biscuits at work. I thought. Feels frustrated and like a failure, the feeling. Passes a bakery on the way home, circumstance. Outcome, buys a load of cakes and binges. Feels stressed and angry as the boss has yelled at him today, a feeling. Gets home to an empty fridge, circumstance. I need something to feel better, a thought. Outcome, orders pizza, chips and garlic bread and eats angrily in front of the TV. Then we look at walks past the shop where she usually buys a binge food, circumstance. I'll just pop in and buy dinner, I won't get anything else. Thought, feels compulsive urge to buy usual binge food. It's a programmed reaction, a feeling. Quickly buys a binge food on autopilot, the basket's full, she's gone to the checkout and paid, goes home, food's there, and binges. Now, these are simplified versions of how pre-overeating state creates outcome of binging, but hopefully it'll help you understand it. There will be many more factors and influences in play, though. Statement I love, and one of the things I do in my programs is we look at the work by Byron and Katie, because this obviously looks asking 4 key questions, but this quote is the same. I love it. You can fight with reality and you'll only lose 100% of the time, which is so true. So, some tools you can use. Okay, we've talked about the pre-binge state. Some great activities there for you to think about, especially the thoughts, feelings, and circumstances. The first one, though, that I'm going to talk you through and you'll get emailed out is the Combat Cravings Action Plan. So when you get this sheet, okay, it has 4 elements, okay? And when you're in recovery from this, it's important to have a plan for when you get a craving, because cravings are an inevitable part of recovery, and often they sneak up unexpectedly on you. On the worksheet, you can create an action plan to combat these cravings. The first step, right, is to identify the source of the craving, okay, and then remove yourself from the situation, okay. Then implement a 10-minute rule. Cravings are strong, okay, but if you can distract yourself for 10 minutes, the craving will subside and you can continue your day. And commit to waiting 10 minutes before you think about it again. During this time, do something to distract your mind and think, what can you do to distract yourself? And list 3 things. So this is all about preemption. So this is why the worksheet is great. You spend some time, what 3 things you do to distract yourself? Second step is, if after 10 minutes you still feel the effects of craving, okay, then what are the strongest coping skills you can create? Okay. List them. Spend some time thinking, what's coping skills? Could you use meditation? Could you use breathing, breath work? Could you use journaling even? Then after 10 more minutes, you're still thinking about eating, okay? Who can you call for support? Who can you reach out to? Have a list of people. Create that network. Again, my programs, we have WhatsApp support groups to help people. You can post something in there, because at least that action of admitting and saying you've got this is quite distracting, and it will silence the critic because it's no longer in your head, you've reached out. The next one I have is a binge urge tracker. Again, this is fantastic for you because it allows you to really start building up data. And I love the phrase data over drama. Okay. Now, the first box you have to complete is basically you capture the date, time, and intensity out of 1 to 5. 1 being it was a fleeting thought, to 5, you are literally, foaming at the mouth. And the most important thing is to complete it even if you've actually managed to ride the urge and not binge. The second section is complete what triggered it. Again, this starts building up a pattern, because guess what? We're going to have date, we're going to have time, okay, we're going to have location, and we're going to have a trigger. The third step is, what would you do differently next time? Or what did you actually do to ride out urge? Because then you're going to build up wins, you're going to build up support. And the final step is, if you did slip up, forgive yourself, move on. The most important thing you will ever learn to beat this is forgiveness, because it is the shame and guilt that carries and perpetuates these feelings. So again, forgive yourself, move on, and get back on it. Don't just go, well, I've blown it now, I might as well eat the rest of the stuff, because that's not you talking, that's your inner critic. Okay, so the next one we're going to look at is introduce you to the SOS technique. You may have heard this before, you may not, but I think it's a really interesting and valuable one to use. So when you think about this, urges are like waves, okay? You've got a trigger, that urge ramps up, it peaks, and then it falls. And they're like waves. Now, by teaching this sort of technique, okay, it's really going to sort of help. And by learning it and preparing it and having the notes, having it in back pocket, you're ready to use it as you progress, okay? And we go into some more depth on this, and I teach you and I coach you through this in longer than I can in a short call like this. So the first step, okay, is stop. When you feel that urge, we tend to go on autopilot, don't we? Habitual patterns take over, and the next thing we know, we're binging on that food, before we realize what's even happened. Now, to get out of this, we need a jolt of awareness. As soon as you notice you're experiencing that habitual urge or that planning to eat food to change how you feel, say stop as loud as you can. Now, I don't recommend this in the middle of Tesco's, but I've been known to do this myself. And do it in your head if needs be, but better still out loud. Think of this as that power move. You can clap your hands together, move your body, just make it impactful. Feel yourself snap out of autopilot and have that moment's clarity, because that's all we need is that moment to shut down that critic. Because guess what? At that point, you've already weakened that urge over you. You need to remember, binge urges do not control you. It's part of your critic. You are in control. Yeah, I know, because I've been there. In the middle of that binge urge, it can feel impossible to resist. In fact, when you're in that urge or you've got the food in your hand, it's probably too late. It takes a lot to come back from that point, which is why it's good to stop beginning at an earlier point. But if you think about this, even the most powerful desires are just feelings. Coated, they're just feelings. That's coated into information that's programmed into your brain. They are simply messages, suggestions that can be followed or ignored. We can choose our reaction. Again, a lot of it is driven by your inner critic. For example, if you find yourself towards the fridge for a binge, the very moment you sort of notice your body reacting with movement, stop. Just literally stop. Stop walking. Stand completely still. Realize that your thoughts cannot make you move. Like I said, you have free will. Realize your body is totally unaffected. The urge to binge is powerless unless you act on it. You may feel waves and compulsion to binge, but it cannot make you move. Like I said, you have that power. The second step is observe. Awareness is key, and I talk about this so often. Try to tune in to what you're truly feeling. Observe the actual living, breathing experience. Check in with your body and notice how it feels physically. What do these sensations feel like? Do they feel like pressure, tingling, warmth, or coolness? How much do these sensations take up on your body? See if these sensations have movements, colors, or temperatures. Keep the answers simple, okay? For example, a pulsing sensation, restlessness in your stomach, pulsing, tight throat, heart racing. Again, make sure you're capturing these. And don't fight it. Even if it's unpleasant and uncomfortable, if possible, try and keep calm and logical about the whole situation. Again, a lot of it is your critic trying to stir things up with you. Try not to get caught up in the drama here. This is why data over drama wins. Remember, it's habitual. You've been doing it for years. It's not personal. It's not you, it's the critic. You don't have to give any more weight than it deserves. If it becomes overwhelming to notice these sensations, gently bring your attention to your breath for a few minutes. Use some breathing exercises. Then go back to notice sensations can connect to that urge. Then be sure to practice this for at least a minute. Remember, use the breathing exercise. Again, something we cover in my programs. So by doing this, what you're doing is you're actually tapping into a deeper, less reactive view. It's a difference between thinking, oh no, I can't believe it's happening to me, and just coolly observing the jitters in your stomach. Your body experiences, but your mind can remain calm and logical about all the situation. You may have body responses, but your mind's calm. You're less likely to get all caught up in your feelings about that urge. So it no longer exerts that strong influence over your actions. And in time, when you get used to the critic, okay, you explore that space and understand it better, and you even realize that the binge urges are nowhere near as uncomfortable as you thought they'd be. The third step is substitute. The best way to change an existing habit is to replace it with a new one, like we've talked about. Figure out your ideal substitute and then replace binge eating or overeating substitute activity. Plan in advance so you're prepared. Create a list of them. Commit to practicing your substitute for at least 10 minutes. Research by neuroscience, as I said, proves that even a 10-minute wait can reduce your brain's response to that craving. Even if the mind's hesitating, the critic's screaming at you, just take action and do it. Implement that plan. You've already decided. Don't second guess yourself here. If you've broken that cycle, you decide you can change. And rather than focusing on the binge urge, focus on the feel-good elements, okay, that within your substitute activity. For example, if you're going for a walk, really find and enjoy the pleasure of moving, exerting yourself, looking at nature, listening to what's going on. Now, you may find that urge in the background still yattering, and that's the critic talking. That's fine. It's perfectly normal. Changing behaviors and habits takes time. Silence the critic takes time. Changing your neural pathways takes time, but just stick with it. And don't leave it until a binge is to figure out what you can do to substitute it with. Plan ahead, spend some time, use these tools. Again, if you're a visual person, use visualization to embed your substitute. Take a moment now to visualize yourself sometime in the future. Now, see yourself experience that urge, stopping for a moment, observing how it feels, and then calmly doing that substitute activity, walking away from the fridge, going to work, putting your coat on, getting the dog's lead, putting some music on. Keep running through this visual image so that you're more prepared to take action when the real thing happens to you. I forgot a slide. There was a slide for urge surfing, which I'll talk you through. You'll get the worksheet which takes you through it. But basically, urge surfing is the build-up on the SOS technique. Okay, and when we urge surf, it's like it says, you're riding that wave. Okay, so we'll go back to the slide. Hold on. So in an urge surf, you are identifying the trigger and you're feeling the ramp up and you're feeling that peak. Now, when you're practicing this, and this exercise, the sheet will take you through at home, it's handy to have a timer at hand. Then you can track how long you can practice and you can see how long that urge lasted. It's also important to realize that intense urges can be up to 20 minutes. So it feels like it's taken a long time, it's perfectly okay. Mantras are helpful in keeping focus and replacing negative thoughts. Something like, this too shall pass, or this is making me stronger, works great, but feel free to spend some time and work on your own. So the first step is about practicing. Choose a temptation or an urge to practice urge surfing. And if this is your first time doing it, choose something small and less intense. A few examples could be reading a message on your phone, checking Facebook, playing a game on your phone. Your phone's a quite good technique tools for this. Pick what urge it will be and then write it down. Then you need to set the stage for this. So you need to find a comfortable location without distraction. This could be in the kitchen, bedroom, in your office, anywhere you can dedicate some time to practice. Then place the temptation in front of you and then just relax. Now, just sit back, okay, and simply observe. The goal is to be completely mindful and focus intently on what you're feeling right now. What's going on with our senses? What do you see or hear? What does the temperature of the room feel like? What kind of thoughts are you having? Focus on your breath as you feel that urge begin to rise. The idea is to be present and mindful and experience the urge, but not act on it. Imagine yourself a surfer. You're riding that wave as that urge builds, the ramp's going up, okay? Now, you get bonus points if you can pinpoint that exact moment when the urge hits its peak. Now, the thing is that momentum is going to feel like it's never going to end. It'll keep rising, just like a roller coaster keeps climbing and climbing. But eventually, as we know, roller waves, they hit a peak and it falls. So what you need to do is ride that urge until it subsides. Even if it takes some time, it's okay. Remember, you're practicing this skill. Then take some time to look at lessons. Describe exactly what it felt during this practice. The more specific, the better. What were your thoughts? What were your feelings? Were there any particular physical sensations you can describe? Then look at your timings. How long did that urge last for? At what time did the urge hit its peak? When did the urge completely fall, sorry. And then spend some time to reflect. How will you practice differently next time? Was the room correct? Were you disturbed by something else? Maybe you could use a different location or make sure there are no distractions. And then when will your next practice be? Remember, let's be intentional, okay, on when and where your practice will be. In fact, spend some time, put it in your calendar as soon as you finish, so you're doing it. But it's all about practice. It's all about fighting these urges. These tools only work if you practice them. No good waiting until the event happens and go, oh yeah, what did Chris say? Oh yeah, give that a try. And it's too late. Because remember, that fork in the road, when you're going to go down the road for most eating, happens a lot earlier than you think it does. Okay, there we are, guys. So it's the end of module 4. Any questions? Oh, straight away. There we go. Working in the office. I can think of ways around those at home, like later. I don't know what to do. Okay. So Gemma, yeah, that's a good point. Okay. So in terms of your eating, is it food you have in the desk? You do it from your desk? Are you actually eating at your desk? Pop it in the chat if you want to. I'm just trying to understand, you know, is it you go up to the break room? Where, or how is it? What can you do? Because again, there we go, super chat. At my desk. Okay. Well, you can always put a simple rule that says, I will never eat at my desk again. So, and stick to be 100% committed to it and say, I'll not eat at my desk again. Because then and don't have food at your desk. You know, because I know offices can be difficult, but you know, people bring food there and nothing else. I would definitely be very conscious of that and make that time, commitment time to just to get up from your desk, because then at least you're distraction there. You know, and just say to yourself in your head, I will not eat at my desk. But in the 6-week program, I talk about creating simple rules, you see. And again, that's one of the really simple ones, because you can be 100% committed to. Remember, when people talk about emotional eating and said, oh, well, you know, one of the biggest triggers is you know, restricted rules. Well, this is your rule, right? And of course, what you can do then is go, you haven't restricted food. You haven't even mentioned, all you said is, I'll never again eat at my desk. Because you know what? Why? It's your desk for work, not for eating. And you start, when you think about this, when you start staying at your desk to eat and do things, you're then held to your desk. It's a great mindset shift to go, I need to move away from my desk. I need to move away to get a sandwich. I need to move away to have my lunch. I need to move away to get my coffee. Because then you're not focusing. It's even better for your mental health as well. Cool. Okay. Anyone else? Questions? Did all of that make sense, by the way? Is there an easy way to transition to healthy eating? I want to eat the stuff that's harming me constantly. Well, the healthy foods and force off doesn't come naturally and back to front. It's a very interesting question, Alex. Is there an easy way to transition? So when I work with some clients, okay, especially clients who binge eat, I work on a principle. If you cut everything out straight away, you're on a hiding to nothing. And I've got people who binge, and again, this will surprise you, may not surprise you. When I was at my worst, I could smash 20,000 calories in a day, no problem at all. So perhaps the transition is transitioning more healthy food into your food plan, you know, and start reducing it. And then just saying, so I had a guy, and if you join my program, you'll hear me talk about him. He created a simple rule about, he used to eat out all the time. He never, you know, he had a beautiful flat. His kitchen was spotless. In fact, his cooker had never been used because he didn't eat. He ate out almost every meal. And what he said is he started having double portioning. So I said, oh, okay, let's cut this down. Let's just start and just have a single portion. So when he used to go to McDonald's for breakfast, for example, he'd have like a double egg McMuffin, a bacon egg McMuffin, 2 hash browns. We'd have 2 meals in effect. I said, well, just have 1 meal. And then we go for lunch, just have 1 meal. And then start bringing something in, introducing a healthy meal in the evening with vegetables and you know, sensible. And then he saw that progress. He saw things happening. So then what did he after that? He then started going, well, I'm seeing some benefit here. I'm not going to have breakfast out. I'm going to start having breakfast home. So he started going, I said, well, you like scrambled eggs. Why can't you just have scrambled eggs at home? Why can't you just start doing that? And when he realized how simple it was, so he started eating breakfast at home. He started realizing he could have porridge. And then he started thinking about having healthy lunches. And then it just started, because he started to see the snowball effect. When you start seeing a small change, right, it starts snowballing, Alex. So what I'd say is, do not try to do everything at once. Don't go, all right, I'm going to eat everything healthy. I'm going to get all of this out of the way. Because you know what that's going to do? That's going to cause you chaos. And all you do is revert back to that food. So think about where you can put these introductions in, when you can introduce the food. Okay. And realize as well that that unhealthy food you're eating, okay, or we say unhealthy, that they're not so nutritious food, because there's nutritious food, not so nutritious. You've got to think about that, because what is deemed as healthy foods isn't always healthy, is it? Or it could be seen as healthy, but it's full of calories. You know, almond oils, nuts, they're healthy, but they're hellish full of calories. So again, it's looking at what you're eating, Alex, and then where you can put the swaps in. But look at the volume as well, and then transition them out, and just do that swap. And each week or each 2 weeks, create a new rule and put those new rules in place. But again, I taught that through my program. Wayne, any tips on how to eat more mindfully? I seem to eat way too fast. Right, lots of great ideas for this. The first one is put your knife and fork down. Literally, put your knife and fork down. Sit at a table, right, and put your knife and fork down before you put it down and pick it up. I'm not into chewing 40 times or any of that malarkey, but just a simple act of putting your knife and fork down, okay, and then picking it back up again once you've eaten will slow you down. Have a glass of water and have a sip every 2 bites. Again, that'll slow you down. And also bring the water, it will help you just not eat so much. And you'll hydrate, which is really good. But that's the easiest tip, is just put your knife and fork down. And I don't mean that you put it down and then pick it back up again. Stop and talk. If you're with somebody at the time, talk with them. Because you're not going to talk your mouth full, are you? So you're going to stop, chew food, and talk. I used to be terrible. You put food down, my head would be down, it'd be like a race, or like a sprinting competition. And then I'd start talking, and I'd be finished. And then, of course, what happens then? I'd finish for that, and then my wife and my daughter, I'm like, "Oh, you finished that?" You know, I used to be awful. When I look back at my behaviours, no wonder they don't want to eat with me, because I'd be like, "Finish that? Don't want that." Because I'd eat so quickly. But again, try that way. That's definitely a way forward. It's just, and then if you say, with people have conversation. The other thing we think more mindfully is don't be distracted. You know, when you're eating, focus on eating. And when people focus on the conversation, eat and have conversation. Don't have your phone when you're eating. Because again, the problem with that is you are eating mindlessly, because our brains are amazing, but they can only focus on one thing at once. But you can do multiple things at the same time, but they can only focus. So if you are scrolling on your phone and eating, you'll just keep eating mindlessly because you focus on the phone. Or if you're watching TV and eating, the same thing will happen. So, cool. Hey, does that answer your question, Alex, Wayne? Hopefully that does. Anybody else got any questions? Excellent, good, fantastic. Well, enjoy 1840, a little bit longer than enjoy your evening, everybody, and I will see you all tomorrow for the final day. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great evening.